So, my parents planned to kick me out. They threatened to. I didn't think they would actually do it, but I didn't stick around to find out. I packed my bags and I snuck out of there in the middle of the night. Now they're trying to contact me, but I have this to say. I'm 23, female, and live at home. I'm in grad school and work part-time at an intern office. I graduate in June, and I've been applying to jobs as much as I can so I can finally move out. My sister, who's 20, also lives at home but is doing school online and doesn't work. I try to help with chores around the house as much as possible, although it's difficult since I leave the house early in the morning and come home late at night. Last week, I came home and there was clean dishes in the dishwasher. I said I'm going to take a quick shower, then empty the dishwasher. And my dad went on a rant about how I'm useless and never help around the house, and that my sister is always the one doing everything. I explained that I do help, and that's just because they haven't seen me help doesn't mean that I don't. He asked me to give him an example, and I told him that I took the garbage out the night before. The conversation escalated to him saying that I should put up and not argue any longer because he can easily make me homeless, if he wanted to. I said okay and went upstairs. The next morning, while everyone was still asleep, I packed my things and left, and I've been sleeping in my car for a week, taking showers at my gym. Later in the day, after I left, my parents called and my mom texted me asking where I'm at. When I didn't come home when I was supposed to, I did not reply and blocked my entire family's number and social medias and have not spoken to them since. They've been calling and texting my friends asking where I'm at. I haven't told any of my friends that I'm sleeping in my car, so I got a very confused text from friends asking me what's going on and why my parents are asking where I'm at and if I'm safe and okay. I told my closest friend that I left home and that I'm safe and let her know to tell my parents that I'm fine, but I have no desire to speak to them anymore. Well, they've been begging my friends to disclose my location and asking her to ask me to allow them just to speak to me. I went to my friends yesterday and she told me that what I did was awful and that I should speak to them. I told her that they threatened to make me homeless, so I left by my own volition. But she's insisting that making them worry about my safety is a horrible thing to do. But I honestly think I just gave them what they asked for. They wanted to get rid of me, so I left. Am I the a-hole for leaving and refusing to communicate with them? What's up, guys? Mr. Reddito here. So this is a pretty intense story that has a family feud really happening. There's an update that came out 2 months later. I hope you're having a great day. If you want to subscribe to the channel, click that button now so you don't forget. That way you'll be able to see any future updates. Alright guys, let's see what the heck's going on with this family. I just want to say thank you to everyone who commented and private messaged me with advice after my first post. Almost 2 months ago, I received a lot of helpful advice that I took into consideration when planning what to do next. A week after my post, I ended up moving in with a friend who was kind enough to let me stay and pay a very small amount in return. I also ended up talking to my parents and my dad apologized for his behavior and promised to never make threats like that again. Which honestly came as a shock to me, but I'm glad things got resolved between us. I let them know that I'm staying with a friend paying a small amount in rent in the meantime, and that I'm in the process of finding my own apartment. They suggested that I move back in with them for free until I find a job and a place, so I took their offer and moved back home and haven't had issues with them since moving back. I finished grad school and completed my internship, and 2 weeks ago, I landed a full-time job in my field. I also found an apartment that's only a 5-minute walk from my job. I start next week, and I move into my new place 2 weeks from now. Okay, so I'm going to read this comment, which got a lot of attention. It's not my opinion, but let me know how you respond to this, or what you would do if you were in this unique position. I'm a bit conflicted on how to feel about this. I can make you homeless, so stop trying to defend yourself is a grade A shit thing to say, or a way to parent. But OP still moves back in with them. But then again, we don't know how much deeper things went along with the apology. This might have been a much needed bucket of ice water over the dad's head that woke him up to how truly bad he's been. I'm rather curious if the parents saw that OP's efforts of the chores were noticeable in her absence. Not saying the sister was slacking off, just saying it was kind of a 60-40 thing. Did the parents soon notice the 60% of it had walked out the door? That's a good point, guys. Do you think when OP left that the parents actually realized about the chores and man, she actually did do some things? Drop your comments down below about this story. I want to hear your opinion on it. Or if you've been in a similar situation at home or with a parent, or maybe a story that's close to this one. Drop it down below, share it, let's talk about it. I love when you guys do that. The next story we're going to cover. OP's struggling when he's a new dad who hates what his newborn has done to his life. He reflects on his struggles with an update that came 10 months after this post. I'm a new dad here, I need to rant, and I have nowhere else to go. It's been 3.5 weeks since we gave birth to our first child. I'm now the most miserable numb I've ever been in my entire life, and numb to everything around me. Nothing gives me joy anymore, and I've lost any sense of purpose. My wife and I were always planning to have children, planning to start trying in a few years, but got bored during the pandemic and accidentally got pregnant. If I knew what my life would be like now, I would have never had a baby. One could say everything with the pregnancy went as good as we could have possibly asked for. Optimistic mommies and daddies would call it the greatest gift and tell us how we're so lucky we had an easy time getting pregnant, blah, blah, blah. And although my wife had a C-section because the baby was too large, she gave birth to a healthy baby boy. And I hate everything about him and what he's done to our lives. I hate the constant 24/7 attention. I hate the seemingly never-ending screaming. I hate how useless he is. He just eats, craps, cries, and sleeps all day. I hate that he put my wife and her body through 9 months of torture, and now months of slow post-birth recovery. I hate that I no longer have free time for myself. I hate that I don't get any alone time with my wife and our dogs. I hate that we haven't been intimate in weeks. I hate that even if we're trying, but we can't because the baby needs constant attention. I hate that we moved out of the city we lived in for more space and have more flexible car-dependent lifestyle. I hate that my wife and I sleep in separate bedrooms because I'm a miserable, grouchy person if I'm woken up 4 times throughout the night. I don't realize how irrationally angry and triggered I would get by uncontrollable newborn screaming. Everyone told me being a parent's so great, but I just don't think it is. It seems so ducking miserable. I don't want to do this for the next 18 years. I can't believe that I now get joy out of running errands and getting out of that house that I pay for each month. And I'm happiest now that I'm back at work and not focused on being a caretaker. I'm tired. I'm annoyed. I get no pleasure spending time with my kid and nothing feels rewarding. And although I help my wife as much as I can after a wrap-up work, I feel a constant sense of guilt that she's doing the heavy lifting. Ironically, I should be happy. I'm further in my career than I could ever imagine at my age, financially stable, have no real issues, and have generally flexible and comfortable lifestyle. But I'm so ducking over this phase of my life. I feel like I want to fast forward to the time when the kid's at daycare all day and daydream about moving back to where our parents live so they can watch the dang baby. But they live on the other side of the country and this would be devastating to my career. It's been 4 weeks that feel like 4 months, and I just want to be happy again. Whoa, guys, so that was intense. Talk about a rant. Well, there's an update that came out 10 months later. Yeah, 10 months. Let's see what the heck's going on in OP's life. Well, guys, I'm gonna be honest. It's amazing how much changes in the span of 10 months. I actually forgot I posted this until a kind commenter asked how things were going now. Anyways, to all the new dads reading this and currently worrying that their lives are over, it gets so much better, I promise. Take it from someone who seriously thought his life was over. I think we had a particularly challenging baby. Colic, restless, not at all calm or enjoyable to be around. I was severely depressed for about 5 months. Reading back on that post, I can hardly remember those days. The first few months were a blur, but I do remember just how painful the feelings were. Around 6 months, though, is when it got better. We finally figured out what was causing the colic, which is GI issues, pressuring your doctor for baby Pepsid, and realized we needed to be closer to family. So, we did it. We moved halfway back across the country to be closer. Little man started to get a personality, started to learn and embrace the world, and my wife and I finally got back into a routine and an understanding of our new life together. Wife and I had some really open talks during the first few months. I wasn't the only miserable one. Looking back, I'm absolutely selfish for not thinking that she was also experiencing similar and even worse feelings than I was. But when we got through it, it really opened conversations and our relationship stronger coming out of it. 11 months in, and we're now planning for a first birthday party with the family, about to move into our new family home, and living in a city with a support group of other young parents with babies. It's just a world different from where I was mentally this time last year. And the kid is just so much ducking fun. He's taking his first steps, babbling, goes swimming with me every day, sleeps 12 hours at night, takes naps, eats food, and laughs at my stupid jokes. I honestly never thought I would like him, and here we are, 10 months later, I'd take a bullet for him. Anyways, my messages are always open for new dads going through postpartum depression. By the way, that is ducking real. Do not let anyone tell you you're not supposed to be feeling what you're feeling. My main piece of advice: just genuinely give it time. Find what makes you happy for the first 4 to 6 months and do that thing. Your kid might not make you happy, and it's okay. Be patient and give it time. Okay, so I'm not gonna lie, I totally thought that OP was a piece of crap when I first read the first part. But then the second part, it seemed like, I don't know, maybe he was just going through something I can't understand. Let's read a comment. Sleep deprivation is no ducking joke. I knew right away when he started describing how miserable and angry and hopeless he felt that at least 75% was, well, a lack of sleep. It's still a major lifestyle change, and adjusting would be hard anyways. But if he had an easier baby, he would not have been such a wreck. Comment 2. People also really gloss over how unlovable little babies can be. They're very loud slugs with very little personality and really aren't developed enough to reward you with the kind of oxytocin boosting behaviors that you need to feel not insane. Heck, babies don't start making eye contact for the 6 to 8 weeks that they're born. They're bottomless pits of need. So guys, let me know, do you feel bad for OP, or have you ever thought this way before when you were a new dad or mom? Drop your comments down below and let's talk about this story, guys, and we'll turn our attention now to the final story of the video. OP's parents cut her hair and threatened her life for not wearing this. I detest the hijab. My ultra-religious father forced me to wear it when I was 5. My mom also supported this despite the fact that she wore a hijab and religious clothing at the age of 48. Pretty hypocritical. Anyways, I'm 23 and a PhD student. Since starting my PhD, I felt brave and started going to school without the hijab. I would put it on prior to coming home. Well, 2 days ago, I was out with a male friend near campus and I ran into an auntie. She said salam, but I kept walking and pretended not to know her. She called my mom the same day and I denied it. I know my mother called my father and told him this, so I decided to go sleep to avoid them. I ended up waking up due to pressure on my body and someone was grabbing my hair. I quickly realized my father was sitting on me as my mother was cutting my waist. Length hair. They both yelled, "Why don't you take off your hijab now with your ugly hair? Show the world!" Then my father took the scissors to my throat, saying he would kill me in my sleep if I ever go without that hijab again. I've not been able to sleep since. They'll come into my room throughout the night and say things like, "Don't you forget what we said." Updates 4 months later. Thank you for the support. I'm truly blessed to have this community to turn to during times of turmoil. I appreciate the advice. Fortunately, my father eventually returned to work 12 days later. During this period, my parents became extremely religious. They started forcing me to read the Quran, pray, and fast for the redemption from Allah for going out with my hijab, and my father told me that I'll have to wear a burqa from now on if I want to step foot outside. I decided to go along with the charade and pretend I found Allah, and started acting more religiously around the house while my father was home. I constantly asked him to make dua for me to bring me back to Islam. I do wudu throughout the day, have the prayers time memorized, etc. During the 12 days he was home, he was watching me like a hawk. So I would take a Quran and tell him I was going to read the Quran in my room and ask Allah for forgiveness for my horrible actions. Once I was in my room, I would look for apartments for rent, restraining order information, and I slowly started gathering my belongings. I contacted my faculty and informed them I would be taking a leave of absence for 1 semester, which they allowed. I made arrangements to stay with a friend and then ultimately moved to my own apartment as I have the funds to do so. The day my father returned from work, I was home alone with my mother and very religious brother. I had a backpack packed with all the necessities. While my father was home, I had started planting a seed in my mother's head, telling her that I wanted to go to the mosque, start teaching Quran to younger girls. Thus, upon my father's exit from the house, I casually mentioned to my mother that I was going to visit the mosque to inquire about teaching Quran. I had to play the part, so I wore the burqa my father got me, and my brother dropped me off at the mosque and told me he would return in an hour. I went inside that mosque and waited in the shoe area until my brother drove off. I then called an Uber and went to my friend's house. There, I removed that burqa and started my plan of action. I got in contact with the police and informed them of everything, showing pictures of bruises that I've documented as well as my hair. Long story short, I'm in a different city now. Unfortunately, my parents and brothers tried to hunt me down, and I could not continue living in my small city. I've relocated to a different city and changed my name. As a result of relocating, I had to withdraw from my PhD program, which was the hardest thing to do. I've reapplied to a PhD program in my current city, and I hope to start in January. Well, all I want to say is I'm just very glad OP was finally able and, well, strong enough to get away from her toxic family, especially her dad, who was raising his hand to her, put scissors to her neck, and was just basically abusive. Well, take out the basically, he was abusive. Let's read a comment. I really hope OP's safe since the last update is 5 years old. I hope her PhD program was able to smooth the transition to a new program after she dropped out too, especially since it was for her safety. So guys, that's correct. This story was from a long time ago. I found it, luckily, digging deep, trying to find stories. If you're out there, OP, and for some reason you come across this video, let us know. How are you doing? What's up with your PhD degree? If you're there, talk to us in the comment section. I'm very proud of you for getting out of that toxic mess. Alright guys, that's all the stories I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining in with me. I'm going to be here every single day across my 3 channels, which you can find the links for in the description below as always. Have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you in the next one. It's cool to be kind. Remember that.